Okay, we're back. There you go. Okay,
All
cool.
right. So go ahead and put the timer on. Any reactions, ideas? Why don't you guys go first?
My first thought was that the establishment itself, it's so like modern and youthful and up to date, and the presentation of that just didn't feel that way. It felt more like a high school project. Like camera quality, even like iPhones, like they go a really long way. And like the voiceover, it just didn't seem very professional. And I also went ahead and looked at their Instagram, and I'm getting the same vibe as the video that we just saw. It's just like pretty low quality, nothing very graphic, like what the visuals are like inside the actual store. It's really like dull colors, which is also like the video. It could have been a lot more exciting.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything?
Hey, sorry, you say me or a cat?
Oh yeah, you did you have anything
Uh,
like any?
yeah, I agree with everything that Julia said. It just didn't have much impact for me as a video. It was very, what's the word? Like it's something that we saw a lot when we were younger, like the quality of video, the way it was told. Like it didn't really take advantage of all the opportunities that are out there today. I don't think
Mhm.
it's really gonna compete that much visually and graphically with a lot of the newer types of ads out there. Um, yeah, even most YouTube videos from basic elemental people that aren't like doing this as a business
Mhm.
um, are achieving much higher quality, much better narration, and um, yeah. So I think
So definitely upping their like production value for their marketing materials. And that can even be I know they do a lot of they mentioned the other day they did the mobile cart and they were looking for riders. So have you guys ever seen where they did like those where people ride around with bicycles and they do taste tests out of the bag? So
Hmm.
Mocha Pops has the same type of model, how they like to distribute their products. So even I was thinking if they could do like a commercial or something capturing what the riders do during the summertime, that could be a cool idea. Even if it's like vlog style, makes the company look youthful and exciting, but then also showcases the popsicles as something that's accessible.
Hmm.
I think that that's a good like placement for the YouTube videos, in addition to making them better and more compelling.
Hmm.
I mean even the
But
audio of the video, I feel like audio goes a long way. Just having the right sound to it that's upbeat, something that's energetic, that matches the fact that they're selling something that has sugar in it and high energy.
uh,
Um, so, so I think that's also something that could have a really great impact and keep people's attention throughout the
Yeah.
video.
Hmm.
Even like background music could have like gone a long way.
Absolutely. Also, they could also they do a lot of stuff within the community. It's like also they partner up with community gardens, and this is how they put some of the interesting flavors together. So, I think a vlog or something showing how they're creating, they also partner with other creatives. Um, so they have a very graphic presentation when you go to the store, but it doesn't reflect, like you guys said, in their marketing. So they
mhm.
do know how to partner with creatives. It's just their messaging of what they're actually trying to do, it gets lost.
Yeah, and I also know they have a lot of sustainability um, kind of connected to their brand as well. So I was even thinking like, how do you guys think they can integrate that into like a summer launch type of thing? Because it's I mean, that really does well with the millennial and Gen Z demographic that really prioritizes sustainable products. Especially because this is also a minority-owned business in Atlanta. I think it's a women-owned business as well. So those things tend to play really well in the city. But how can do you think we could do something to tie all of that in where they don't use plastics and you know it continue to add on that value add for the customer?
Well, going towards like kind of an activation, Earth Day is like right around the corner. They could do something like kicking off the summer with like Earth Day, like showing the process of the way that they like make their popsicles, or like what makes it so sustainable. That gets people, I mean, when I think of like Go Green, I think of like sunshine and like things like plants, and that's Earth Day.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, process is a big deal. I feel like we're missing the story. You know what I mean? I don't know what the story is. You know what I mean? And that's what really people get engaged, is knowing the story.
Yeah. So
Totally
Catherine,
right. A lot of those videos on YouTube have a lot of traction of just people making food on the street, or like the process of, putting it together. Like I know personally, like sometimes I spend 30 minutes just watching them, I don't know, cook on the streets of China or something. Like there's especially with things that are more, sweets related, um, the process of that is actually quite fun to watch. A lot of times there's a lot of color to it. There's a lot of, visuals that can get a lot of people really interested and want to watch and see how, oh, that's how you make it. Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
Oh, that looks pretty.
yeah, I agree. That sounds really good. And two, I couldn't get, because they are privately held, I couldn't get too much into like their revenues to like see exactly how much, how much they could possibly be selling on the average. But I'm assuming based on their Instagram following and just from the stuff that we've seen, that they have a pretty consistent internal community that supports on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Kat, I know you've already been to the space before.
Mhm.
Do you think that they can do something with that existing customer, maybe
Yeah.
during Earth Day? Like, what types of things are those people interested in? Do you think? Because I feel like an Earth Day activation for new summer flavors, highlighting sustainability,
I think it
should
should be
be
done on a
part.
farm. They should do it on another Black-owned farm, and maybe they should do like go around Black farms, Black-owned farms, which are a couple of them within the city limits. I think that would be a dope activation.
Yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. Okay, well, I think they have a few ideas, even just from this call that could work, at least for their summer, quarter to take them on throughout the winter months. So that kind of brings me to the second part of my questions. What is some, or really the first part, what should they be concerned about this summer as they're looking to scale? I know one of the things that I immediately thought about was the fact that this will be, especially after the summer's out, a time where there's a lot of people looking to go into public parks and things like that. And I don't know if you guys know who King of Pops are, but they own that geographical area. So immediately my thought was King of Pops is in Ponce City Market. They're accessible to the Beltline. Mocha Pops has to be careful about trying to compete with them because they probably have a lot more ad dollars in addition to customers that can spin them down the rabbit hole, to acquisition of the same customer. But is there any? That was just my idea. But do you guys see anything that could potentially pose a challenge for them that they should be watching out for in the summer, winter?
I don't know about necessarily posing a challenge, but with the King of Pops, they can actually leverage they can actually get the benefit of the marketing and presence that King of Pops already has, right?
Mhm.
Because King of Pops has, the exit out of Ponce Market onto the Beltline, but there are lots of other access points. And so, setting themselves up at one of those other, access points along the Beltline is something that they can just, potentially tap into at a very low cost, as well as with other markets as well. Just back to the advertising, I just felt that video was trying to squeeze a lot of messages into, one long video. So I don't know who's going to watch all of that, but perhaps one, making it shorter, and then two, targeting exactly what they're trying to get across. And maybe it's much smaller videos that actually are targeted towards a specific thing. And to tie back into your point regarding how do they tap into that market, I mean, a lot of people are looking to enjoy the outdoors and be out among people and just be positive, and they have a very positive background to their business in terms of what they're doing from a vegan and environmental standpoint, and just finding some message that actually links those two together seems like an avenue that they can tap into. But again, it's needs to be very targeted towards whatever market they're going after.
Yeah.
I agree. Also, there's so many different access points that I've actually been on the trail, on the Beltline, and more
Mhm.
so going towards like Donnelly Hollowell. I love that access point. There's nobody there right now, but it's going to
Yeah.
be bananas when it starts getting warmer and people find out that that part is completed. Also, they're finishing up the one over here by Vine City. That's another access point that they like. I feel like they really need to go on that side of the,
God, yeah. I didn't think
you
about
feel what
that.
I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's good. Is there anything else that they could possibly do? Now, concerns wise, it sounds like they just have endless opportunities.
They also, you know,
Yeah.
they're in supermarkets. I think they're in Whole Foods. They're in supermarkets already.
Yep.
No.
I think on the mobile piece too, I think one of the things that works well is just tying that into your viral campaign and your social media campaign, right? Let people know where you're going to be, when you're
Mhm.
there,
Mhm.
you know, post that, broadcast it. You know, they don't just want people selling ice cream, they want people, you know, who are influencers.
Yeah. Yeah. And that could even be too, like Ken, to your point, if they decided like let's get some influencers to go out and distribute the popsicles, let's have them actually go, take this out to these different places, whether they're like college campuses or just in the park, and those visuals can be opportunities for those viral moments to happen. Well, it sounds like Mocha Pops has some planning that they need to do and some investments that they need to be making, especially while while the iron's hot here.
Mhm.
Any last minute remarks? Anything? It was a really good brainstorm, guys, about their strategy. I mean, we're right under our 12-minute mark, so wonderful.
I think just making it more obvious, like how involved they are in the community. Like they have pictures posted. Oh, you can't see it. They have pictures posted when they're in the grocery store, but like they don't have like the actual like, oh, like Whole Foods like sign where they're like holding popsicle in front of it. Just being more obvious.
Yeah.
Mhm. They have coding classes also. They have yoga classes, and to Julia's point, you really don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know they were doing all of these things until I spoke with her.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to make that clear so that people aren't just coming, just for the ice cream. They're coming for the whole to do.
The whole to do, honey.
Okay, so this is our next one. Of course, we try to do one that's a little bit more well known, and then another one that's a little bit more niche. So, K Jewelers is our next. I'm sure everybody knows every kiss begins with K, right? So
Mhm.
that's the little twinkle thing at the end. So that is actually an ad company in 1997. I forgot his name. Who's the art director? Came up with that slogan for K Jewelers. Right now, they're a jewelry outlet chain, have over 1,000 locations across the country. I think we were talking a little bit about it before, Mr. Kim, but I don't think you got on just yet. So they're actually a subsidiary of a parent company that they own. Jared, I think, basically all the ones that are in the mall connected to one another. They they own all of those different ones. Here are some of their product offerings. They have everything from rings to necklaces to earrings, bracelets, charms, and watches. So moving on to the next. So these are some general campaigns that they already have out. We're going to be looking a little bit more like how we did last week with the Dior campaign. Just taking a look at their advertising, looking at these two, and then we are going to be preparing for a go-to-market strategy for the Christmas season. So to push in-store sales post-COVID during Christmas, because right now they are having to compete for internet traffic. With e-commerce jewelers, especially with, again, the millennial demographic that's more okay with doing jewelry online. So we're looking to find a strategy for them to increase those in-store sales that potentially have higher ticket prices. So we'll watch this first one, and for the diversity's sake, I wanted to do both, but we'll look at both.
Someday, I'm going to marry you. Someday, we'll buy that little place on Ellsworth. Some days will be rougher than others. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me time after time. Someday, 50 years will have gone by, and I'll ask you to marry me all over again.
Someday.
Okay. This is their Love is Unstoppable campaign. We'll watch the next one, then we'll talk about the
Okay.
whole thing.
I titled the song I Choose You because love is a choice. There are going to be times where there are storms and there are also going to be great times. But during those times, I choose you. About 2 months before our wedding, I approached Eric and I asked him to make me a song. I was like, Eric, I want you to make me a love song. I want it to be slow and beautiful and touching. And he had no idea what I wanted him to create this song for. Today is a special day as I promenade down the aisle, a smile as I see your face.
I tried to play what I imagined Grace, if she was a song, what would that be? And then I started to create a melody for me according to musically what her melody means to me. The first time me hearing this song, I'm standing at the altar and the anticipation is going, and then I start hearing a familiar melody and I'm like, what is that? And then I start hearing Grace sing. If you never change, if things stay the same, I will still choose you over and over again. I was about to become like just complete mashed potatoes at the altar. He's still the guy that opens the car doors for me, even though I can do it myself. And to hear the music that we wrote together, it was what I envisioned when I wrote the song. I just felt like this is my dream come true right now.
Okay, I hate to interrupt the romanticism, but we'll go on to the next video. I'm sure we get the vibes. Okay, so for Kay Jewelers, right? We saw those 2 commercials. Those are ones that are running right now. Those are the ones you may see on television. Of course, they're pulling heavy on that ethos. And their main target demographic are they're targeting males most of the time. I know we kind of talked about like what the jewelry market looks like, and they target relatively middle class males to purchase the diamonds or to purchase in store. And I thought that was interesting considering some of the messaging in the commercials, because then I know in the first one that we watched, it was actually a male's voice over that experience. So I did notice that from an advertising perspective. And then also the product placement of the rings were very super casual. Like, it's not like, hey, buy this, it's more so like, a general smooth campaign. So I thought that was really something to kind of keep in mind for there. But let's assume that Culture Creators is working for Kay Jewelers for a Christmas campaign, right? What are 3 recommendations we get an in-house team to increase in-store sales using a digital ad campaign and strategy to get this sold? So we'll watch last year's advertisements that they were running for a while at Kay, and then we'll go on to some market data so we can have some discussion about what we can do for this year.
At Kay, we know that every gift is important, but the most important gift is the one you give to the person who believes in you all year long. Every best gift ever begins with Kay.
Okay, so let's go on to, we'll go ahead and start some discussion. Basically, everything that we have here was what I kind of talked about throughout the presentation. Of course, it's, I think it's Signet Jewelers, not completely sure, but they're Jared, Shell, Zales, Shaw Jewelers, 8 billion in revenue, very large conglomerate. And one thing that I want to keep in mind that this is another one of those campaigns where we're having those generational shifts in the marketplace. So of course we're having declining marriage rates and birth rates amongst the younger demographic. If you probably notice, a lot of the people in the commercials are a little bit older than what you would consider of, ripe marrying age in terms of wedding rings, right? But also in terms of Christmas time, a lot of those engagements and things like that, Christmas may not be the biggest demographic for proposals like the spring or the summertime. So think of those two things when we're looking at these. Jewelry is a discretionary purchase. So of course, this is something that is done when you have the money to pay for it. So it's a very well thought out purchase. It's not like you can just put up a billboard and make it happen. Like you got to have a strategy to get that sale. And then two, this was on a really cool article talking about their target market is kind of middle class meals, and that's why they're in suburban malls and shopping centers, things like that. So it gives some context to, what they're trying to do, who they're trying to get to, and how quickly they can do that with storefronts. And again, I'm sure, as you can imagine, with COVID, that has changed the playing field, because I don't see anyone going into a store for the last 6 months to purchase a wedding ring to do any proposals, much less have a proposal. I know we're big on, gender reveals and those types of things, but let's start the 12 minutes. I want to hear you guys' initial reactions, and then we'll go into just some general discussion before we do the 3 recommendations. So whoever wants to go first.
It is they had something going when it was more geared towards people of color. It just seems very dry to me. I mean, I wouldn't really purchase it. There's nothing exciting about it. Like, what? Jewelry's exciting. Jewelry's flashy. You know what I mean? I don't see anything that makes me want to purchase, or even look into them, or even go to their website, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell that, like, obviously these were made prior to COVID. And so I read somewhere that, like, with Zoom, like the jewelry trends of 2021, it's very, like, people want to buy more jewelry because, waist up, you want to look presentable. And so if you only have to worry about the upper half of your body, then you can go all out. So if they want to do something with that, obviously, like, it hopefully looks like COVID's kind of coming to an end here. So maybe that's not the right approach, but so many weddings were canceled this last year because of COVID. And so they could do some sort of campaign, like, for the unpredictable that's to come, like, whatever your partner gives you can be reliable, or like this promise on your finger, if anything, is infinite.
I love that, Julia.
That's really, really good.
Yeah, and it, like, sparks, like, the romance and, like, the sentimental value. Like, younger people, I feel like, don't really care too much about flashy. I mean, it depends where you come from, but especially middle class people, they don't really care about, like, the flashy. It's more of the sentimental meaning of, like, this represents, like, you and your partner. And so with that, like, in their marketing campaign, they could do, like, this is something that you can pass down to future generations. So, like, in the first video we saw, it could be that. And I mean, people aren't really getting married as much. So it could be like a necklace that you pass down to, like, your child, or something that has a lot more length to it. Not just like, oh, this is something that you buy every season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Generational.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To really
I like
showcase the utility of the, and again, I know that I think we're more inclined to like those types of things. Aomi,
Exactly.
Yeah, there's also, I think there's also, because sentimental value is important, but it's not as important necessarily with the most expensive thing in our generation, especially, is also the trend of handing down jewelry from, like, the previous generation, which I think is also part of the reason why people aren't buying as much new jewelry, because, let's say your grandfather passed away and your grandmother wants you to, she's willing to give you her ring for you to propose to your spouse, or, there's a ring in the family already that can be passed down. And that is something that does exist for some people. And then there are some people who are willing to buy something, maybe if you want something specific. But yeah, jewelry is an emotional purchase. It's not really, there's nothing really, like, logical about it.
Yeah.
And something that sometimes it just comes down to the price, the availability, to the designs. I don't know. I guess the question is how to increase the sentimental value, bring something else, something more. Another thing that I found with our generation is that we want things to do more for us than just one thing.
Mhm.
There's a lot of stuff that can be repurposed through, like even our phones, even our watches, we don't expect it to just tell time anymore. And I don't really know where that goes in terms of rings, because like off the top of my head, I can't see what else it could offer.
Mhm.
But if you're gonna make that big an investment, I mean, you spend $1,000 on a phone, but it does so much for you. You spend 1,000, 2,000 on a laptop, it does so much for you. If you're gonna spend, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000 on a ring, and you don't really care about the social value of it, because our generation, like, we're not as, emotionally tied to that. It's like, what else is it?
What's the other value?
Yeah, like what is the future of it? A lot of
Yeah.
things have a future. There's like, it's not just, oh, we're cutting it in a different shape because it's still the same product. Like what
Yeah,
else? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's literally the same thing that you're selling over generations and generations, just cutting it in different shapes or,
Mhm.
changing the
Yeah.
design.
Well, this lends to a great idea. I mean, they can partner with different designers or different influencers to come up with a different design. You know what I mean? That would then, want someone to even purchase it. Something else is showing the struggle of love. Love is not so perfect. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we went through this, but we're still together, or something to that effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a good idea to like play on emotions in the ad, but I don't know how much. I mean, it depends on the price and what someone's willing to pay for it. I don't know if it'll be enough to get someone to make that big of a purchase.
Yeah.
I think with it, it's not just the product, but also the experience of actually going and like buying it. Like people aren't going to stores anymore. They're just like kind of shopping online. But even that, people are shopping online for the experience of like clicking and like window shopping. So if they made the experience more worth it of making it some sort of like sentimental experience of like you go there with your partner or like your partner is picking up the ring for you. Highlighting that, and people don't really go to like shopping malls that much anymore. Like thinking about the mall in my hometown, it used to be poppin', and now it's not really anymore. It's kind of vacant. But now they have these new styles where I know like in my community they have like a lot of these buildings of like almost little like snow globe style towns of like where they have like all these like different apartments, and in there they have outlet malls. That could be something, and it feels more like home because you're shopping close to home. This is like your local K. Like,
and I think they could try is writing cultural trends, because a lot of the people are starting to be more intentional about the designs that they want, like not just a generic circle or a generic square. Like they want something that means something. They want a letter. They want a symbol. There are a lot of cultural trends with, things that people are wearing. Maybe it's related to a show or something related to, I don't know, being, would I say flashier in a way? Like obviously it's diamond, it's the same material, but like in terms of the shape of it, the symbol of it, are they doing Nike signs? Are they doing, I don't know, like being, I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know how big people would be on that. But it's a thought.
So guys, remember too, like, yeah, I like that idea, because remember too,
yeah, kind
we're
of like
thinking
t-shirts, like how you can have the prints of different logos and patterns. Like maybe someone wants that, and maybe it's not even necessarily just for weddings and marriages. Maybe they start branching out for other reasons. Someone will want a ring besides being engaged.
Exactly, like that's what I was thinking too. But even to go back to Julia's point, I know you like remember this is a Christmas campaign, so like if they can do something specific that's like culturally inclined, like what if they did do something like a Christmas town activation where they're selling different types of jewelry inside of this like small town type of thing? I would think then you could only buy it there, and then people would have that same sentiment that this is something that's new.
They could also have customizable family sets.
Yeah.
I like that.
Like maybe you're buying it for your daughter, you're buying it for your son. The family has it, kind of like school rings, where you have like, I don't know if you went to Georgia State, like the Georgia State ring sort of thing. Maybe families want to start, everyone's a brand today. Maybe there's a family brand or like a family logo they're coming up with, and they want something for the whole family.
I like that.
And the more kids they have, the more they buy, sort of thing.
You know what they could do if they wanted to do like an advertisement or like a commercial for that? They could do like this kind of like typical like snow globe like setting, where like the whole family's going to like take pictures with Santa or something. And I don't know about you guys, but like I mean, I come from like a middle class home, and like we were always buying Christmas presents pretty last minute. We weren't very prepared.
Yeah.
So it could be like some sort of commercial where like the kids are going and taking pictures with Santa while like dad is like he's stopping by Kay while the kids are taking pictures, and he's like looking back at them, like picking out these specific things for them.
That's pretty cool, because I've been seeing a lot of like ice blocks, like they have been like sculpting with blocks. They did like the Nike sign and like some other like popular brands. Being able to do something like, I don't know if they could like start incorporating color in terms of doing what you talk about, like pictures. So it's kind of like, you know, glass, like window glass art. You know what you're talking, you know, like how like a lot of churches have like the stained glasses, and some people are like really into that. I don't know how you can start incorporating some other colors to the diamond to give it a stronger narrative or some more complexity.
Yeah.
Couple of observations from my side. I don't necessarily have answers to these, but things to consider. One is that, you know, they're in a tough spot. Malls are declining, foot traffic in malls is declining, weddings are down. That essentially means that they have an older demographic. And that first commercial to me actually showed that they're actually trying to expand their market by getting people who are already married to buy more jewelry. You know, that was a very clear message there, which makes sense. I mean, you're trying to expand yourselves, and you got to expand somewhere. So one, they're in malls. How do you get out of the mall, right? And they seem to be trying to establish an emotional connection with people at home so that they'll then come into the mall. But is there another option for them besides needing people to come into the mall? Is there more that they can do from an online presence? You know, do people, I know one of you mentioned something about people buying things online, you know, now as part of COVID, and how has that shaped the jewelry industry? I don't know. But is it more of a easier purchase online? But just some things for them to consider as they try to overcome some of the market forces working against them.
And to add to that, I was thinking of some research I was doing about like, what are those, like Airstreams, where that can be like, oh, you know, they can activate where you can come customize, or you can make these appointments to have that kind of experience where you're actually seeing these designs in person. So that's getting out of the mall, is having these portable traveling stores.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's too, that like in terms of like the marketing mix there, it's the placement. We have to place the jewels somewhere else outside of Jared's, which is a hard thing to do, you know? So it's, you know, definitely, I think they have a lot of recommendations that they can make, but the three that I heard was increasing the sentimentality of the group purchasing jewels. And then again, emphasizing utility and experience, like when we're actually, you know, can it be passed down? Is it something, you know, are we seeing that during the Christmas time? Are we at the Christmas dinner passing around old jewelry? Or you know, again, raising that sentiment. And then two, you know, are there ways to customize it to different family types and in environments? Because ultimately there's a demand in jewelry with families just as much as there are wedding rings. So yeah, I think those are all great observations, guys. And they definitely have some things to think about. I really, you know, I know that you guys mentioned it, but I'm really thinking a lot about that, like that Christmas town placement of the jewels, you know, where you have people coming to, you know, things across the country where Kay Jewelers is sponsoring like a Christmas tree lighting. Because I know Tiffany's used to do. I mean, I honestly, you know, kind of like on a sidebar, I watched Breakfast at Tiffany's this weekend for the first time, and I was like, this is marketing. This is marketing. I'm not even in the market for Tiffany's, but I was like, I would want to purchase a sterling silver Tiffany something, you know. And so I was thinking, that inspired this picking Kay Jewelers today, and then also seeing their generational challenges. That movie was in like the 1960s when it came out. So, just some things to think about. But wonderful job again, guys.
Thank you guys. That was amazing.
Thank you so much for joining us on the consulting call today to see kind of how we brainstorm strategy in 10 minutes. And of course, given more time, there's no telling what we could cook up in the group.
All right, Ken, so give us some feedback on the team and, how we can proceed further, or how can we capture some of more clients?
Yeah, I think it's, I think that there are a couple of things I would focus on. One is, I think all great ideals that you come